And most of the time, I tend to associate ADHD with children. So I was very curious to find out, how does it feel as an adult? Some of the definitions define ADHD as how the brain is developed and how the person who has those signs and those symptoms process information. And one of the main things that I could identify with is the emotional overwhelm that you can get with doing simple tasks. And that fascinates me. So today in Let's Talk About, I want to invite Andrea Startup to come and share her experience with us. So Andrea, welcome.
Hello, Liliana.
Andrea is an osteopath, and she has been recently diagnosed, like I said, with ADD, correct?
Yes, yeah. Predominantly ADD, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and when did this journey started? Because this is a brand new journey I'll take. So tell me about it.
Okay, so I was diagnosed in 2022 when I was studying osteopathy. So I was at uni. I'd never ever thought I had ADHD or ADD. I thought it just affected children, when they'd bounce off walls and be uncontrollable. So, but it was only when I spoke to my niece, whose son was being assessed, and we were talking about it, and she was explaining some of the symptoms that her son goes through, suffers with. Well, I say suffer. I mean, there's a lot of superpowers with it as well. I don't see it as a weakness. I just see it as a different way. Our brains work differently. And she sent the form for me to look through. So I'm reading this form, tick, 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 tick. And then I looked over to my fiance at the time, we're now married, but I said, Mark, I think I might have ADHD. And he said, don't be silly, Andrea. He said, you're just quirky, you're just Andrea. So then I read out some of the things on the form, and he said, actually, that's you. I think maybe you have got it. So I then thought, well, I'll go for an assessment. And it was like having the light switched on. It was like everything made sense, my entire life of struggles. And it's like, oh my God. So I had a mixture of emotions, from elation, finally realising why, but also grief, because I thought if I'd have known years and years before, I may have not had so many struggles and challenges, and may have known how to deal with things a bit better.
My research has been very recent, so enlighten me, if I'm saying something that doesn't make sense. But for what I understand, in adults, it tends to calm down a bit, but still the symptoms can be there, or the signs. These signs are also present when you were a child, but probably, like you said, especially at our generation, an older generation than these children that are being diagnosed now, we wouldn't think about these things. It didn't exist at those times, those diagnoses. It was just like, you were hyperactive, you're full of energy, you were being a child, which is normal. But there's something about the brain. So tell me about, what did you discover? What happened next?
So I had a lot of conversations with my fiance at the time, who's now my husband. It would cause a lot of arguments in the beginning of our relationship. We got together 10 years ago, and this was way before I realised I had ADHD. And we'd be sitting watching the television, and I would have my phone and I'd be looking, and he'd get upset and he'd say, Andrea, we're meant to be watching a film. And I'd say, I am watching it. And he'd say, but you're not, you're on your phone. I said, but I can do both. One thing with ADHD, you recognise patterns, so you know what's going to happen in the film before it happens. So then you lose interest. So then you're waiting to catch up. So while you're doing that, you might look at your phone. And so things like that, he'd be upset that I wouldn't have my full attention on something. He would often say to me, Andrea, I couldn't last 5 minutes in your brain because I'm always looking at new things. It's for dopamine hits. So I get really excited about something and I want to learn all about that. But then when the novelty wears off, I get bored with that and I then move on to something else. So that would explain a lifetime of jobs that I've lasted 2 or 3 years in, because once I've learned it all, I get bored and then I have to move on to another job. And that's been my whole pattern. Now, I would say, I know you said about as an adult, maybe you seem to maybe mellow down a little bit. I'm finding it quite bad at the moment, and I think that's because where I've slowed down a bit, where I'm older, I'm not out there so much looking at all these different things to get my attention. I'm slowing down physically, but my mind isn't. So I'm finding it quite. I'm lacking the dopamine, but I haven't got the energy, so much energy to push myself. It's hard for me to explain. So I am struggling a bit at the moment, and I'm actually looking to go on medication, which I've always been against pharmaceuticals. I'm an osteopath, so I always look at natural alternatives. I know they have their place and they can save lives and enhance lives, but I've wanted to avoid medication. I was asked when I was diagnosed, and I said, I've got this far, to the age of 56, I might as well carry on. But I'm actually looking into it now because I've heard that it can bring more of a focus and a stillness, because it'd be quite exhausting.
It's interesting because one of the reasons that I think we are having this conversation here is because I would like to explore the medication part of it, and I come from a background where, my mom's a nurse and she, I grew up with knowing alternatives and medication because she used both, because our background also has an alternative there. But I'm with you. I avoid, because I believe our bodies have the ability to heal, and we have 4 bodies. We don't have just one. People have a tendency to focus more on 2 of our bodies, which is the mental body and the physical body, but we also have an emotional one and a physical one. Definitely, I believe, I don't know, but I have to explore more, but put it on the shelf, like I say, put it on the side and see where it lands. My first instinct as I hear you is that if it is a way the brain develops and everything, maybe it's a matter of purpose.
And I would agree. I've got a very creative brain, so and I would agree with you. And this is why I'm struggling, because we've spoken recently about my struggle. I love osteopathy, but to be a registered osteopath, you need to do continual professional development, like in a lot of doctors, dentists, teachers, I believe. You have to do that. Now, I've done my 90 hours in 3 years, so I can't think anything worse than just writing down laboriously the day, what I've done, why I did it, my reflection on it, because I hate it. I've procrastinated. They call it, I think, task paralysis. Then I get overwhelmed, and then all of that. So that's the part of osteopathy that I dread, I don't like, and it's even made me think of coming off the register, so I haven't got that pressure. And then my creative brain has been thinking, right, what can I do? Well, I could use my osteopathic skills, my creativity. So I already thought of if I could think of my own treatment style, develop my own, I was already thinking of a website and a name and that creative juices. And then that's the dopamine hit, and I'm on a roll. But so I feel quite restricted as being a registered osteopath. That some of the really boring stuff, that some people can do it in their stride and it's not a problem, but for someone with with ADD or ADHD struggles with those kind of things, and I've struggled my entire life with it. When I look back, when I did a diploma in dental nursing, I left everything to the last minute. I nearly pulled out. I nearly left.
Joined the club.
Because I had to do. So they extended the deadline, and then I managed to do that. My holistic therapist, exactly the same. I nearly left, and then again, they supported me. This was before I was diagnosed, but I just leave everything to the last minute. I'll either give up or I'll leave it to the last minute, and then I have emotional breakdowns, and and I'm a complete wreck. And it is exhausting when you have to meet these deadlines, and because, as you say, you're not a free spirit. Then you're being boxed in, and it's like you want that freedom. And
So what? So okay, being diagnosed, did it change anything? Did it, or did you just acknowledge it and
one
it's
big
validation?
thing one big thing is that it helped me to forgive myself, because I've been very, very hard on myself. Self-loathing, hatred. Can't forgive myself for the mistakes I've made, and can't understand why. I couldn't understand why I made certain life choices, or and things like that. And then, so it was like finding the missing jigsaw puzzle piece. I know that's corny, but it is. It really is.
But sometimes it's the validation of what you are.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
can't put a thing on it.
And it's not that I've used it as an excuse. I'm not sort of saying, it's not that I want to excuse it, but I try. Now I'm more mindful of things, so I'm a lot better at timekeeping, because another thing is time blindness. So you think that you can fit a lot more in. So Mark will give me a time check and say, right, we're leaving in 5 minutes. And then he'll come in and check when there's a minute to go, and he'll say, what are you doing? And I'll say, I'm just going to finish doing it. He said, but we've got to go. And it's almost like we can bend time, because I do tend to get somewhere I need to be in time, but it's by the skin of my teeth. Everything is leave it to the last minute, and then I'm animated to get it done. And so it's just things like that. It's just understanding, and it doesn't take away. You still got the difficulties at times, but it's just understanding makes such a difference.
So there are some techniques that are suggested for managing these challenges that comes with the kind of brain that I'd say we are. Because I don't want to make it's not. I don't find it a fault. I mean, who am I to judge? But in my heart, I don't think it's a fault. I think it's just a unique way of being, or it's just understanding who you are. Because it's a bit like everything is uniform, but when you look at I look at nature, for example, and not every rose is the same, and not every rose is the petals are all different, and even in the rose itself, the petals are different, and it's and I don't see the rose beating itself up for not opening on time. No, every rose opens, blossoms at different times, and sometimes they don't. So it's just understanding how it is. So have you come across any techniques, or have you tried any, like even one or two that you could share here? I'm curious.
Well, I mean, when I was in my 20s, I learned transcendental meditation. So I was having panic attacks at the time, and I was suffering PTSD because of a traumatic first pregnancy. My baby nearly died. I lost a lot of blood. Then a year later, I was only 19, and then a year later, my dad died, and so I was put in trauma with that. And I started having panic attacks, really severe panic attacks, where the doctor said I might have to be put in a psychiatric unit. They were really bad. And then my brother said, I don't want you on antidepressants. I'm going to pay for you to learn transcendental meditation. So I was off meds straight away, just like that. I stopped my antidepressants, and I've never had another panic attack. And I got into a routine of the meditation, and it was really good. But then over the years, I haven't really done it, and I know I should. And I go through phases of trying, but I think my brain is so. I've had a few years with all the studying, and different traumas happened throughout that time since 2018. So my brain has been quite hard, wired. I've been all in my head and not much in my heart, which I'm now coming back to now. And I'm finding that when I do treatment, I often go into a meditative state. So that brings a stillness and connection with my spiritual side and things. So I find that very therapeutic.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I've heard it's about finding the things that work as well, isn't it? And kind of implement them and repeat them. It's I don't know. When I was reading about it, which was very briefly, it sounds so simple at the same time as it is complicated, isn't it? It's just something. I think that's for, I don't know, but for our generation, I think we brought up to beat ourselves up if you don't do the thing in the perfect way, or if you don't do it in a certain way, because we were taught that was the right way, and then obviously we live our lives with those rules. I see the new generation, the younger generation, Gen Z, or even the younger ones, like they say, they don't have so much those problems because obviously they were born already into the acceptance of in these diagnoses as well, in these names. For us, for me, like I said, I never even considered that as an adult or even for myself. But when I was reading the other day, I was like, okay, like you said, tick, 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 and I was like, okay, I don't want to put a label on me or on anybody. But because then I remembered, when you said, I was diagnosed 3 years ago. And I thought 3 years ago is not long ago. And I said, how many people were not diagnosed? And I actually did a quick search, and the NHS actually has an article which is part of their. They have studies, actually. They brought in a group of specialists to study ADHD because apparently they weren't offering the right support out there. And then they said that, yes, there's more obviously diagnosis in children than in adults. And even the ones that the adults, they know that there's much more out there because, especially adults in our generation don't even think about it. You think about going and get a diagnosis of ADHD? No.
Well, they say that females mask it a lot better than males. So that's a known thing, that we mask it better.
Well, I suppose because we come under the umbrella of multitaskers. Another label that we are multitaskers. But I'll be honest with you, I always thought I was a multitasker person. I'm finding that the more I shed my luggage, my baggage, emotional baggage, especially because I had a lot, I still have a lot. The more I heal my woundings and my things, I find that I'm becoming less and less and less of a multitasker. So maybe what it is we are all masked, like you said. We are all under these probably lots of masks because that's the generation we are. I wonder if the other generation, the generation before us, or after us, sorry, not before us. Yeah, even before us. But I see, for example, my mom, the generation of my mom, they don't even think about these things. They get on with life. They just get on with life. They would get on. And we were taught to get on with life as well, because either you did it or you don't. But so yeah.
A few years ago, there was an interesting book I read, and it was about personality types. I think it's called Personality Plus, and it spoke about I think it's the choleric, the phlegmatic, the sanguine, and the melancholic. So it's 4 different personality types. And it reminded me a little bit, because apparently I'm a sanguine, and that's where you're loud, you tell really long stories, and you're like the class clown and stuff like that, which is quite similar to some ADHD traits. So I wondered if before this ADHD and ADD and autistic, spectrum, whether the more simplified version was those 4 personality types. I need to read that book again because I find that quite interesting.
Sometimes everything's also about timing. As we grow up, we either acquire a lot of luggage, but we also drop a lot of baggage, and emotional baggage, mental baggage. I think we're in a very mental world now. We're on that kind of vibration where it's more the 40 is the mental body, so it's about mastering your mind. So probably that's why a lot of us are in our minds and we can't cope. But which before I've been all my life a very physical person, because I've always trained and had that kind of discipline of training every day and doing exercises and things every day. And so I believe that was my outlet. I would I would go out and, I used to go out dancing, just literally that energy. And also you get the dopamine as well, isn't it? The music, the thing. So, and I used to train a lot. I used to go to, if I wasn't teaching, I was actually attending. I've attended classes every day because that's how I was wired. Because that's how I am wired. I in my head, I'm that person that if I buy a gym membership, I'm there every day because I was trained since I was a child. So you kind of get that. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's all that is. Maybe it's because we just adapted. I don't think the new generation adapts so quickly, but maybe they're not wired to be adapting so quickly. But our generation, definitely, we had to adapt and much more creative to do. I mean, we used to do stuff. I don't know about you, but when you the thing is, you didn't have phone, internet, or anything for people to record. So we used to do much more. No one was watching. What is it that you see now moving forward, apart from the medication that you're considering? Is there any other things that you?
I think it's important. Where I've felt that osteopathy is it's quite involved. You have to do a lot of research, reading up, writing notes, and I've really not done any creativity. I feel like I've lost myself. I'm musical, I'm artistic, and that's all that part of me is gone really, and I need to get that back. So
do you play any instruments?
Yes, I play the piano and ukulele. I write parody songs. I used to be in a little band.
How do you play?
We just used to sing 50s songs, the old songs, but I used to write some parody songs about getting older that were a little bit naughty sometimes as well. So I like doing comedy, just comedy songs, and painting, art. I haven't really done anything since I started studying, really, which was 2018. So I need to get some of that Andrea back.
So tell me, how did you go through until the end of osteopathy and you got qualified?
What do you mean? Sorry, how?
That's not an ADHD person. You would have given up in the middle. So what happened?
Oh, honestly, I was giving up every day. You've only got to ask my husband. I'd be up till 2:30, 3 in the morning, trying to focus on writing a dissertation, which was a nightmare because they wouldn't allow me to write what I wanted to write. I wanted to write about the effect of humour and laughter on health, and I found so much research on it, and I was really passionate about writing that. They said I couldn't write that, so I had to pick. It was just a nightmare. I hated every minute of that, and I can't believe I got through it. I actually had a year out and then went back to a previous profession. I just thought, I'm going to be a dental receptionist. I'll go back to that. I kept asking the universe after 2 years of study. Then I took a year out and I kept asking for signs, saying, please, God, do I need to give up or do I need to stick to it? And I did keep ignoring the signs that were telling me I had to stick to it. And then I got a job at a dental practice. And then who should walk in but one of my osteopathy tutors who doesn't even live in the area. And I'm sitting there and I said to him, oh, hello, Mr. Fadil. I said, I'm probably going to quit osteopathy. I've got a job here. He said, well, before you make up your mind, just come along to a session before you pull out. So then all my colleagues are saying, you can't give up. You've done 2 years of a 4-year master's. So I thought that was my sign from the universe. I've got to carry on. So I had another 2 years of tears, and breakdowns and strops and everything. But I did it, and it's like I still can't quite believe it. But that was 3 years ago.
I mean, at the end, when you complete something. As one thing, isn't it? You should always celebrate to get that dopamine in there and get that sense of thing. I mean, I've started to think the only problem here is we need dopamine. How are we going to get it in a constant level that keeps you regulated? Because
I've looked on eBay and they don't do it on there, unfortunately.
Yeah, the emotional stress, the overwhelm for nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
now I realize the patterns, and I was like, yeah, it's definitely emotional overload in a lot of sometimes for nothing, and then you beat yourself up for that,
Mm.
and then that's it. So maybe it's about, I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting, but yes, well done for the osteopathy, and you got it all done. So now you're practicing, and now you're struggling with the regular updates that are required.
Yes, the boring part of it. I love treating people, helping them, and I use my humour as well, which is good. I had a patient the other day, and I'm treating her, and she's crying with laughter. She said, "No one ever makes me laugh like you make me laugh." And then I got a message a couple of days later saying her neck feels better. So I think laughter has
That's good.
that's my superpower. Is that I can make people laugh.
Sometimes it's all about what's the purpose. Do you know
Yes,
what I mean?
yeah.
You definitely have a purpose in your osteopathy, and if you find it, and you can find that source of dopamine in it, and I think we live in a world that there are systems that I know I've always rebelled against them, but in the same time I complied again for them, because our generation, I suppose our parents were very tough with that. The young generation, I think they get it more lenient. I think we were very much compliant, and in the end, I realized that internally I was always rebelling against something, always
Yeah.
rebelling against something, finding my own way to do things, or by not doing them. That was my rebellious, my rebellion, finding a way not to do it or to sabotage it. The thing. Is there anything else you'd like to share at the moment that would be like anyone who's listening to you and advise?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking that it was earlier saying about we mask it better. I think I've always been seen as quite a steady, at work especially. I'm very proactive. I'm very, I like doing a lot of things at once, and that keeps me busy and interested in something. And I can appear quite calm on the surface, and I describe myself like a swan. So on the outside, I'm very calm, and people would be surprised to see my feet doing this under the water, like really panicking inside. But on the outside, I'm all sort of tranquil and calm, and that's a really good analogy. That I mean, under you can't see what I'm doing, so I probably look quite calm from here, but underneath the desk, I'm tying something like with my hands all the time, like I'm fiddling. Ever since a child in bed, I would rock myself, just rock. I know that I just rock backwards and forwards, and I still do it now, and I'm 60. And Mark's used to it now, but he used to say, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "I don't know. I just can't keep still."
With the regulation of the nervous system, so probably because the brain is wired differently,
Yes.
different signals to the body, so the body needs to regulate that. Because obviously, if you're sitting still and you don't, your nervous system wants to move, then there must be a conflict there somewhere.
Yeah.
Makes you then find a movement that regulates your necessity to be still.
Because they have those fidget spinners, don't they? I think they're called for children now. But
what I used to use a lot. Do you remember those Chinese balls that I used to buy?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They were really good, like, because they regulate your nerves in your hands, isn't it? The nerves in your hands, they calm you down.
Yeah.
I find very calming to just do, like, on the hands, like squeeze the fingers, and just there. And sometimes there's the tapping thing with the fingers. There's one of the tapping techniques is the fingers, isn't it? I always find that calms me down. And obviously tapping, definitely. Eyes, all the time. Or under your arm, or under, but I do all this. It calms me down a lot. This one. I mean, sometimes, the monkey one, the whatever, if you learn the technique, but I find that this definitely does. Okay, thank you, Andrea. Thank you
Thank you.
for coming. Thank you for sharing your story. Is there anything
Thank you for
else
listening.
to do before we go to say?
No, no, no. Just thank you for listening.
No, but it's a pleasure. I love this kind of subject, and I like to dig deeper, especially if it's to do with your nervous system or behavior patterns, or just being unique, different, rebellious. Let's just go for it, being different. But definitely, we will connect at some other time. And so I'm just going to say to anyone who is watching this episode to leave your comments in the comments box if you want to leave a message for Andrea or even for us here in the channel about your conditions, your experience, or any funny moments that you would like to share with us. We're opening the subject here of Let's Talk About series, and we definitely will be looking forward into expanding this subject a little bit further. An older generation that used to just get on with life, and now we're finding ourselves with these situations where we actually go, oh, hold on, these kids are being diagnosed or being showing signs of this, but we actually had them all these times and we just didn't realize what it was. So thank you very much, Andrea, once again. And I wish you all the best with the osteopathy and the unraveling of your techniques to deal with the daily tasks. Anything, just put it on our comments box as well to share with the other clients. And I'm just going to ask you to check on our social media platforms if you want to hear from us and know more about these episodes. But in the meantime, I say stay in the vortex and bye for now. Bye for now. Thank you.